SEC football spring takeaways, separating facts from fiction ahead of the 2023 season. By Brad Crawford of 247Sports. He's got takeaways for every single team. Let's start with Joe Milton. With Tennessee, excuse me. Here's what Brad Crawford said about Tennessee. He says that this is Joe Milton's offense. This is not an attempt to create a quarterback controversy for the Vols this season because, frankly, there isn't one, according to him. He said Milton's the guy. He played with poise and fluidity during spring camp ahead of 5-star freshman Nico Iamaleava. And this is according to Crawford, quote, based on what I've been told from those close to the program, though, the leash on Milton might not be as long as Tennessee fans and those who cover the sport believe it is. If he had to, Josh Heupel would feel comfortable right now handing over first-team duties to Iamaleava. He has learned the scheme quickly and showed it in April. Iamaleava is so talented, it's going to be difficult for Tennessee staff to keep him off the field as a first-year potential superstar. If, for any reason, Milton's not the prolific signal caller those in Knoxville expect him to be in early 2023, Iamaleava is ready. So it seems like he's saying Joe Milton's the guy, but Iamaleava is just right there behind him. This follows Barrett Sallee of CBS doing his overreactions earlier in the week. And by the way, he called them his own overreactions, to be fair, where he said Iamaleava would be the starter by game 1. This is intriguing. From what I watched with Iamaleava, it didn't seem like he had fully picked up the playbook yet, and he needed a little bit of time. But this is not what but based on what Brad Crawford is saying, and based on Barrett Sallee's overreaction, these contradict what Dennis Dodd said about Iamaleava when he first arrived on campus. We're all of a sudden having a question, is it possible Iamaleava beats out Joe Milton? Now, Crawford says the job is Joe Milton's. And from everything we all watched, Joe Milton didn't lose the job in the spring, and Iamaleava had some developing to do. But these reports suggest a lot more favorable facts about Iamaleava than even I knew. Because I thought he still had some issues he had to work on based on what I saw in the spring game. Yes, he made some amazing throws, but he was 8 of 16. Well, according to this, he picked up the playbook, and he understands the scheme. Now, this scheme is very easy to pick up. I mean, all you got to do is read a safety. Like any of us here in this little on the show today or watching or talking in this forum, any of us could pick up this offense in 2 weeks. Wouldn't be that hard. So it's going to be intriguing how that goes. Mr. Jones says Joe Milton is the starter, has been in the system for 3 years, and has progressed each year, showing most recently in the Orange Bowl. Mr. Jones, I agree with you, and I think Joe Milton is going to stay the starter. I would say, though, 2 pushbacks on that. Got to question a little bit of what he did in the Orange Bowl because you have to wonder how committed Clemson was in that game. More importantly than that, you also have to wonder, and this is a big one now, does it matter how long you're in the system if you can throw? Because this isn't a hard system to pick up. Now, Joe Milton may have developed more, and that may be the thing you're talking about. He has developed and has been working with the quarterback coaches and Josh Heupel for 3 years to work on his accuracy. But if Nico already has that, I'm just saying, it's a little bit intriguing. I think still, gun to my head, Joe Milton's the starter and finishes the year. I think Dave Hooker believes that too. Dave Hooker was told his own things, that Joe Milton is in pretty good shape. What all the stuff we're seeing is that Joe Milton just has not lost a job, and he's done nothing to lose the job, and that's where I am right now. Let's go through some of these other SEC spring takeaways. So Brad Crawford says that Ole Miss remains unsettled at quarterback. Yes, that is true. That is a lot to try to figure out. Oklahoma State's Spencer Sanders and LSU's Walker Howard were all given reps this spring, but it seems like Jackson Dart is the leader, but he was very inconsistent. So Ole Miss could have a fall off this year. Offensive line is the major worry for Kentucky this year. I mean, that was a major worry for Kentucky last year. So there's nothing new with that. South Carolina will continue to ascend under Shane Beamer. Now, this is an intriguing one. This is, by the way, Travis says morning to you, Travis, too. Now, will South Carolina emerge under Shane Beamer? That's a good question. That's very, very, very possible. And if they do, that's a big problem for Tennessee. Tennessee needs to make sure they beat the brakes off South Carolina this year. That is a war over recruiting turf, guys. It is no coincidence that the year Steve Spurrier went to South Carolina in 2005, Tennessee went 5-6 and the downward slide started. It is no coincidence that the worst period of Tennessee football history was when Steve Spurrier was at South Carolina and Clemson was ascending under Dabo Swinney. Tennessee's entire national title team, Tennessee's national title team, the entire defensive line was from South Carolina. Moving on, Jimbo Fisher's stubbornness finally ends. Those close to the program reporting that this will be Bobby Petrino's offense, the new offensive coordinator. Well, that'll be interesting. If it does, maybe he saves his job, but we don't know yet. Chips are stacked against Billy Napier in Florida. Well, we all knew that. That is true with the NIL failures and the mishaps in the transfer portal. So Florida is hurting a little bit personnel-wise. Assumption Auburn's QB situation is its biggest hurdle. That could be possible with Hugh Freeze. I mean, again, Hugh Freeze is somewhat of a quarterback whisperer, despite everything else he is problematic. But according to Crawford, the bigger worry offensively is piecing together a playmaking rotation at wideout. That could be an issue too. Hugh Freeze usually loves those big wideouts. LSU beginning to feel overhyped. He used the word rat poison maybe for LSU. But I think, and yes, LSU actually has a tough schedule. Maybe they are overhyped. Maybe they aren't, but I'm very, very high on LSU. Doubt surrounding Georgia's three-peat chances. I'm not even going down. I'm pretty sure that Georgia won't three-peat. Notion that Nick Saban has lost a step. This is based on the quarterback desperation and adding a transfer in Tyler Buckner. I don't think Saban has lost a step. I think he's fine. I just think Alabama's going to rebuild this year because Ty Simpson is massively overrated.